Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So start the video off with, if you see my nice hat here, Rich and the crew over at Ace Race Parts, they sent me a hat and a shirt I'm obviously not wearing right now, but I'll start the video off with a big thanks to those guys for always being my go-to supplier for weld elbows and a lot of the materials that I use in my day-to-day manifold construction. But aside from that, we have a titanium project to do today. So this turbo setup right here is built for a local customer, and it's a Zona rotor turbo of some sort. I'm not up to date on my Zona rotor nomenclature as far as their sizing and everything goes, but looks to be a decent sized Zona turbo. Really cool anodized purple compressor wheel. But I went ahead and I built this manifold for it. It's a billet collector 321 stainless manifold. Sits the turbo more forward. And I guess also, since I just have my hand on it, also has a Turbo Smart 60mm electronic wastegate, which, if you guys don't know much about those, it is a wastegate that operates off of an electric motor rather than vacuum and or boost referencing. So you control the wastegate via the ECU, and it's a really neat and cool concept that Turbo Smart came out with over the past couple of years. So with that being said and that aside, we are going to build a titanium downpipe for this setup. So I have all of my materials over here from Tycon, aside from the turbine outlet flange that is fastened to the back of the turbo. But we are going to build a 4-inch titanium downpipe for this. And as you see, there's no pie cuts. The more that I have worked with tie and just welding and fabrication in general, the less and less desire I have to work with pie cuts, and the more desire that I have to work with mandrel bends, or in this case, mandrel elbows. So what we are going to do, or what we will be doing, is building a 3 to 4 inch downpipe that also recirculates that 60mm E-gate into the downpipe as well. So I have my wastegate outlet flange and a 2.5 inch elbow here. I have my 3 to 4 inch concentric cone, a 4 inch 45, 4 inch 90, another 4 inch 45, and 2 feet of polished 4 inch straight tubing. So with all these materials, I should be able to get this done. Oh, and the one other material that I forgot to mention is, or materials rather, I have an O2 bung brace and a heatsink O2 bung. So the brace, its function is to increase the footprint of the wideband O2 bung. So that way, with vibrations and, I guess mainly vibrations and just the harsh conditions that a downpipe is subjected to, you're less likely to break the tubing around where the O2 bung is. You know, if you increase the surface area of the footprint of something, it takes more force to break that seam and to break that weld than it would if it was just welded around the O2 bung. So I like to put those on all titanium exhaust components when I am putting an O2 bung in. It's a nice little bit of insurance to make sure that your work doesn't fall apart for your customer. But with all that being said, we can start off by welding the concentric cone to the turbine outlet flange, and then we can figure out where we need to go from there in terms of other materials and other bends and what have you. So let me go ahead. I will pull that turbine outlet flange off of the turbine outlet and get it tacked on, get ready to weld, and then we can zap that together. Alright, we have the concentric cone welded to the turbine outlet flange. And titanium is notoriously difficult to film and take photos of, but what you guys can see is the lack of color around the outside and on the inside. So this welded up very nicely and very happy with how it came out. So now we can take it back over to the mock engine bay. I can put it back on the turbine outlet and figure out, based off of the first angle that will be implemented here, because obviously we can't run this just straight, otherwise it would run directly into the side of the cylinder head in about 3 inches. So I have, like I said before, these two 45s and 190, so it will end up as 145 coming off of that concentric cone deal, and more than likely there'll be a short section of straight that will go to this 90 that will kick everything downwards and get us in the position that we need to be to make this an actual downpipe. So let me go ahead, I'll get this fastened in and figure out roughly the angles that I need and where everything's going to lie. From there we can tack more pieces together and then get more welding done. Here's what we have so far. So we have concentric cone, 45, straight 90, and the way that everything is positioned now, if I take this piece of 4-inch aluminum, I'm purely just using as a placeholder, if you guys can see there, puts us in a beautiful location for the downpipe outlet. So I might end up having to put a little bit of a miter cut or miter grind on that piece of straight tubing just to get it to kick a little bit more towards the firewall. But all in all, very happy with how it's coming out so far. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead, pull this section off and weld these 3 seams. So that way, any movement, any pulling, anything that happens during the welding process will be over with at that point in time. And we can move on to the rest of the downpipe without fear of it moving any more than it needs to. So let me go ahead, pull this off, get the purge plugs put in and a back purge started on it, and we can get these 3 seams welded up, make this one piece, and proceed on with this project. There we go, the first portion of this downpipe all welded. And see if we can get you guys a nice shot of the penetration. Yeah, I guess you can see right there. All full pen. Came out very nicely. The back purge worked phenomenally for this. When you're doing a pie cut section, oftentimes the pie pieces, they don't seal the best but from one to another, so it's difficult to get a good back purge on a pie cut bend. But these mandrel bends makes that so much easier. So I'll go ahead, throw this on here, and then we can figure out the lower portion of the downpipe, which hopefully will just be a straight section and the 45 and obviously the 4-inch V-band flange on the bottom of it. But I'll go ahead and get this thrown back on here, and then I can determine what the remaining construction of this downpipe will be. And just like that, we have the lower portion of the downpipe welded together. So again, we look on the inside, nice penetration, no color on the outside. So exactly what I was looking for with these titanium welds. So the only thing left to do, at least today, is to figure out where this piece mates up with the current downpipe outlet there. So I'll have to slide underneath of the car and try to cram my arms up in there to mark out the correct location. But that is the final seam that needs to be welded to make the downpipe completed in all one piece. So let me slide under there, I'll get this marked out, we can get that final weld knocked out, and then see how this thing looks all together. And there we have the main structure of the downpipe. So it's extremely light, which you obviously would expect from titanium. and all the welds came out awesome. So I'm very, very happy with how this is coming together. And now the last two things that will need to be done to it for it to be completed are obviously putting the O2 bung in and then recirculating the wastegate. So we are not going to be doing those things today. Let me set this down and I'll show you why. Now, thankfully I had good bottles of argon, but I have the valve shut, and obviously you can see that the needle is down towards the lower peg. If I crack it open, hey, it doesn't move. So I'll need to go and get a new bottle of argon tomorrow to continue working on this and to get the rest of it wrapped up. But at least for the time being, this thing came out awesome. So as you can see, there's like no color in any of the welds. I really like working with this polished Ticon titanium. It makes this job much easier, and like I said earlier in the video, the fact that I'm able to use actual bends as opposed to pie cuts makes me very happy. So I guess let me go ahead, I'll throw this back into the engine bay here so we can get one last glimpse of it before we get out of here, or before I get out of here for today, and get back to this tomorrow. So there it is, just roughly reinstalled back in the engine bay here, and the downpipe itself is not tight, as it may need to swing one way or another depending on how the wastegate recirculation goes, but the turbo itself is fastened in its place. It isn't going anywhere. So that's the top side, and if we come down around here, we have a nice outlet position that will make it very easy to build the mid pipe and the remainder of the exhaust. So very, very happy with how this is coming out, and I think it looks really cool. So that will be it for today. Like I said, we will reconvene tomorrow, get the recirculation knocked out, put the O2 bung in its place, and at that point, this project will be a wrap. So I will see you guys then, and we will continue with this and get it all wrapped up. We are back for day number 2 of building this recirculated wastegate titanium downpipe setup for this 2JZ turbo setup. So yesterday we went ahead and built the downpipe itself, and today we are going to work on the wastegate recirculation and place the O2 bung where it needs to go. So when I build recirculated wastegate setups like this, there is not a whole lot of room to have the wastegate recirculation be a modular piece of the assembly. Meaning, I guess I can show you right here, typically what I like to do is make the actual wastegate dump tube, or the recirculation tube, removable from the whole system. So you can see there's a V-band right here, obviously a V-band on the wastegate outlet, and this tube can be removed for ease of installing this whole setup. However, on a setup like that one, or even right back here, you don't have the amount of room that you need to put a flex bellows in, to have a second V-band assembly, so on and so forth. So what I like to do is make this rear, or I guess a wastegate provision like this, a piece of the downpipe. So this obviously is not removable unless you remove the whole downpipe, while the front wastegate recirculation on this particular setup is removable. So what we're going to do with this titanium setup is essentially mimic or replicate the rear wastegate recirculation on that setup. So that's the long way of saying we are going to have a little tube stub come off of our titanium downpipe here, attached to the wastegate itself, and have that be all part of the downpipe rather than be a removable modular piece. So when I build recirculated setups like this, the way that I prefer to do it is to pull the whole setup out. I'll obviously fasten everything down where I want it to be. So I'll tighten this V-band clamp. The wastegate inlet clamp is already tightened, and the wastegate itself still has a bit of movement, which that's what I want right now. So I'll tighten these two clamps down, so that way it locks the downpipe and the turbo into their respective locations. And at that point, I can go ahead and still have this movement with the wastegate. I can take my wastegate outlet flange, and in this case, our 2.5-inch 90-degree bend, and I can start coping those and make them fit to the side of the body of the downpipe. From there, I'll pull the wastegate, I'll cut a hole in the side of the downpipe, get it all prepped and deburred and everything, and then weld it all together. So that's just obviously a brief overview of what we are doing, but the first order of business will be getting this turbo setup out of the engine bay here, which this is tight in here, so it might be a little bit cumbersome to do so, but that's what we'll need to do to move forward with this setup. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get this pulled out of here, and then we can put it over on the bench and figure out where we're going to go from there. And now with the setup over here on the bench, I can get a much better idea of what actually needs to be done in terms of this recirculation. So we have our flange and our tube here, and we can see that if I use this entire bend, this thing will balance, which it probably won't, but the outlet is directed pretty much in line with my index finger. So if I did that, the tube would want to end up somewhere in this area, which is not the correct location for where we need this to be to recirculate properly into the downpipe. So again, if I put this up here, it looks like I'll need to cut it somewhere in right about where my thumb is there, cut it tangent with the bend, meaning that cut it in the proper location on the bend so it doesn't oval the tube. But if I cut it, like I said, somewhere in this area, that will bring the outlet in line with my finger, my index finger now, and that shoots us down into this area on the tube, which is exactly where it needs to be. So I guess let me go over, I'll grab the outlet clamp for the wastegate, actually fasten this on there, and then I can figure out exactly where I need to make the cut, get it prepped for that, and then we can make the cut. And one quick note, if you guys remember, when we have cut titanium with an angle grinder before, the one quick tip to avoid having all kind of debris impregnated into the surface of the material or the inside of it, you need to get yourself, or I highly recommend getting yourself, a can of this anti-spatter spray. This is from Crown Alloy Company. I'm sure there's multiple other options out there, but just some sort of an anti-spatter spray that prevents the debris from the cutting process from sticking to the surface of the titanium. If you don't do that, you'll have little specks of material that will be stuck all over a nice beautiful surface finish of your material, and it will look like crap. So just that little tech tip will save you guys a whole lot of headache when you're working with titanium. But I digress. Let me run over, I'll grab that clamp, get this flange and this 2.5-inch tube fastened on the wastegate, and we can figure out where the cut needs to be made, do that, and keep this train on moving. Now I have my bend cut to the appropriate angle, and I also went ahead and I cut a 4.5-inch long section of 2.5-inch diameter straight tubing. So what this is going to allow me to do is, if I butt this tube up to our angle, you can see that it puts it at least on the center line of this tube right here, or the actual downpipe. So I cut this a little bit long to give myself the ability to have a little bit of wiggle room as I cope these two pieces, this whole assembly, once everything's welded together. So this ends up being a little bit of a tedious process, as obviously round tube doesn't fit onto the side of our downpipe right now. So we'll have to take a pretty aggressive little miter cut off of it. And from there, we'll go on the belt sander and just dance it in place as we need to. But this at least gets us the initial index, or the beginning of what we are doing here. So at this point, what I can do is take our straight, our angle, and our outlet flange, and I can weld those three pieces together to make the beginnings of our recirculation all one piece. And then I can go ahead and start tailoring that freshly welded piece to fit the side of the downpipe. So I know it's a little bit of a convoluted explanation. Hopefully it makes sense. But let's go ahead and get these pieces tacked together, and then we can begin welding them and wrapping this portion of the project up. All right, we have the Wastegate Recirculation provision welded up. It came out beautifully. So have nice penetration all the way around the flange weld. And then if you guys can see, if I spin the tube around, you can see up in there, nice penetration on the butt weld. So very happy with how that came out. And now we need to figure out how to cope it to integrate it into our downpipe. So as we said before, it falls nicely onto the side of our tube there, or the downpipe tube that is. So I'm going to mark out where it makes contact on the downpipe, and from there that'll give me an idea of where I can make my initial cut. And once I make my initial cut, then we go over to the belt sander and start the arduous process of grinding little by little until we get a nice fit up between our straight section on this tube and the straight section on our downpipe. So let me go ahead and get that marked, and then we can start moving forward with the most difficult portion of this project. Now the recirculation provision is all welded up, and it came out very, very nice. So very happy with how it fits, very happy with how the finish is, just very happy overall with the end result of this wastegate recirculation. Now this is the first time that I've done a recirculation like this on titanium, but it really wasn't any different or any more difficult, aside from the welding differences, than doing it with stainless steel. So very happy again with how it came out. And now the last order of business is to determine the location for the O2 bung and to get it put on. So I'm going to put this back in the mock front clip that I have over there, and that will allow me to determine the location of the O2 bung. I can get it marked out, get the hole punched in it, so on and so forth. So let me go ahead, go over there and do that, and then we can do the last bit that needs to be done to finish this setup. there we have it. This turbo setup, or hot part setup rather, is completed. Now there's one last order of business I need to attend to with this, which is I need to put a Vibrant VanGen HD weld ferrule on the compressor outlet, but I'll go ahead. I'm going to do that off camera. It isn't that exciting for you guys to see me do that, but we did go ahead and knock out this beautiful titanium downpipe with recirculated wastegate provisioning for this pretty cool Turbo Smart E-gate. So very, very happy with how this setup came out, and very happy to have the opportunity to build parts like this. It's always cool, always a fun litmus test to make sure that I can still weld titanium, can still work with it, as I really don't get to do that much with it. But I'm very happy with how this came out, and I think the customer is going to be happy as well. So that is about a wrap for what I wanted to showcase in this video. I don't usually show a whole lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis here, but occasionally I'll get a project that's cool enough that I can't help but show, or I can't help but take you guys along for the ride with me. But that being said, that's going to be about the end of this episode. So as always, you guys are awesome. You guys are the driving force that keeps me coming back to make more of these videos. And the fact that you're interested at all in the things that I do around here is really cool, and I really appreciate it. So with that being said, as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next one.